A depth image is typically rendered with a pinhole camera and only stores samples visible from the camera's viewpoint. Even minimal viewpoint translations expose samples that were not visible from the original viewpoint, which causes disocclusion errors. Even when two depth images are used, one for each of the two ends of the segment of viewpoints, considerable disocclusion errors persist. This paper presents a method for alleviating disocclusion errors based on rendering the depth image with a novel non-pinhole called an Epipolar Occlusion camera, or EOC. This sequence shows the EOC image for a segment of viewpoints of increasing length. The EOC leverages the fact that disocclusion events can be conveniently described as the sum of independent disocclusion events on individual epipolar lines. Here, epipolar lines correspond to image rows since the segment of viewpoints is parallel to image rows. Like regular depth images, the EOC image has a single layer, it is not redundant, and it can be rendered efficiently in feed-forward fashion. Whereas a pinhole gathers all samples visible from a point, the EOC gathers samples visible from a segment of viewpoints. Here, a single EOC image has all samples needed for the entire sequence, eliminating disocclusion errors. These sequences visualize one row of an epipolar occlusion camera. Also shown are the EOC image row, a reconstruction row obtained from the EOC image as the viewpoint translates between the left and right endpoints, and the true reconstruction for comparison. The blue rays are defined by the depth discontinuity between the right edge of the red foreground object and the green background object and prevent disocclusion errors. Here, the occluder is narrow and some of the blue rays do not intersect the scene, but the reconstruction is still correct. In this scenario, the multiple occluders have only a small gap between them, yet they are handled correctly by the EOC. Here, all but one of the occluders are hidden from the left viewpoint, yet the EOC image captures all needed samples for the entire stack. Here there is only a 1 pixel gap between consecutive pickets, which makes the case particularly challenging. The EOC pulls the pickets apart and inserts the samples that are visible along the segment of viewpoints. The EOC image successfully disoccludes the entire back wall, whereas using two regular depth images produces substantial disocclusion errors. Here the blue bunny is completely hidden from the left and right viewpoints. However, the small gap between the red doors exposes the entire bunny as the viewpoint translates from left to right. The EOC image correctly captures the entire bunny and avoids disocclusion errors. In the examples seen so far, the segment of viewpoints was parallel to the rows in the left pinhole camera image, so the rows of the EOC image coincided with the rows of the left image. In these examples, the segment of viewpoints is aligned with the view direction, which generates radial epipolar lines. The EOC construction and rendering algorithms proceed as before. Here, two EOCs with perpendicular viewpoint segments disocclude most of a complex scene as the viewpoint moves on a vertical circle. Here, a single EOC image successfully captures the scene with complex occlusions, narrow features, and a great range of depths. The EOC enables disocclusion-free reconstruction. We have presented a novel non-pinhole camera model designed to gather samples visible along a segment. The EOC generalizes the viewpoint to a view segment. We will investigate devising camera models that capture most samples seen as the viewpoint translates in 2D. Such a camera would produce a non-redundant light field. The idea of designing a camera model with optimal properties for the problem at hand could be used in other computer graphics contexts, including motion blur, anti-aliasing, and soft shadows.